Hello, welcome back to CamBro Conversations. In today's conversation, I'm delighted to be joined by Lex Griffin. Lex, thanks for joining me.
You're welcome. Pleasure as always.
And he's straight out of a gym session, so he's looking swollen pumped. For those that are watching on YouTube, you'll be enjoying this.
I'm maximizing my nitrogen retention. But with my protein shaker that's actually filled with a frappuccino.
Yeah, well, just as well, I'm affiliated with my protein as well, Lex. I would not be happy if you were punting that and I was somebody else.
Hands down the best supplement company we've got going at the moment.
Yeah,
I mean that as well. Since I joined them, I've been truly shocked at how good they are in terms of a company now.
Yeah, I think and we're going to get onto so many of the different things that you've done over the years, but when you are picking partnerships, you have to pick something that you would use personally yourself and has a range that supports your followers, because you could pick a brand that was really, really good for just you, but the vast majority of your audience, if they didn't benefit from it, then it doesn't really sit well with you. And
also, I always have it so that I'm allowed to say if I don't like something.
Yeah.
Like, I freaking hate blue raspberry. It's grim. Like, it doesn't exist in nature. Do you know that the blue raspberry flavor is meant to be blueberry and raspberry? Did you know that?
No, never.
Yeah, I didn't know that for years.
I just thought it was a classic pre-workout.
It does not taste like blueberry and raspberry. It tastes like chemicals.
Yeah, it's always a BTA or a pre-workout, isn't it?
I never understood that with pre-workouts. Where are we going to have this? Right before a workout. Cool. Should we make it as acidic as possible then?
Yeah, awful in your gut.
What? So we can feel sick as soon as possible. It's mad. What's my favorite one at the moment? What have I got? I'll tell you what, I've gone off pre-workouts as a whole, and I've just started using just basically straight beta-alanine in capsules.
Yeah, easy in the gut.
Because then you can take out all the stims, then you can have your espresso before you go to the gym, and you've got the nitrogen retention and vasodilation of just that singular product. And you can buy it's called, I think my protein got it, it's called NO2 pump.
Yeah.
So it's cheap and cheerful as well. Just double the dose that it recommends.
Yeah, naturally, like you built a tolerance over the years.
Well, it's not even that. It's the fact that I think they always dose things for the average Joe who's going in there just to kind of get fit, do a bit of running, which you wouldn't want. But if you're going in to lift weights, you want to maximize the pump. So you want that over pump effect. Whereas if you were running on a treadmill or doing boxing, I wouldn't take that amount. I would take the recommended dose, because then you wouldn't pump out. But you can double the dose of it. It's completely safe. There's no stims in it. And you just get a really good thick pump when you're in the gym.
And that's what we're after.
Yeah, that and timing carbs around workouts as well. People don't know about this. We were talking about this on an episode we haven't released yet on the Crewcast. We were talking about recovery as being a thing. And people neglect calories as a recovery agent. Yeah. That's a big thing.
Sleep calories. Get it in a range.
Yeah, grouping calories around your workout, especially carbohydrates. That's going to help keep you really motivated when you're in the gym, keep your energy levels high, keep you looking good, because you're going to keep that glycogen retention to have that pump. And that in turn is going to stimulate you and keep you motivated. Whereas if you're in a cutting phase and you kind of use all your calories evenly through the day because you think, oh, well, that'll keep me happier, it actually won't. You'll end up just kind of flattening off. What you want to do is get your fats during the day and then put your carbs around your activity. And that way the fats will keep you satiated and stop you going fluffy brained, but then the carbs will fuel your workout and help you look good too. Yeah, and you hint straight off the bat, boom.
Yes,
boom.
The knowledge bombs have been dropped already. Yeah, I love that. And I'm a huge proponent of what you're saying there as well, because if I think about what my day looks like, and probably what yours looks like as well with your laptop work and your editing, Lex, is we actually need good cognitive performance early in the day. Yeah. So we need our proteins and our fats, particularly as you've said. And then, of course, when it's time to throw down, we want the cells and the muscles being nice and full and pumped with the carbs, and then, of course, refueling afterwards. So, yeah, I love that it's super actionable. And for a lot of people listening who are maybe desk workers, it'll be the same. You need to concentrate during the day, and then it's go time after work for your training.
Yeah, you don't want carbs when you're sat doing nothing. It's no use. You may as well save them and group around those active times. Tell you, it makes a world of difference.
Exactly.
Go and try it, people, and tell us we're wrong.
Let's pop a pin in the gym stuff just now, Lex. I want to go back to, before we go into like your recent activities and your focuses and everything you've done, I want to go back to young Lex, and I want to understand about the early days that shaped you. What was it like growing up? Where did you grow up? What was life like?
Okay, we're going like. So originally, I'm from up north, beyond the wall. So I grew up in an area called the Ribble Valley, which is like a green belt up in Lancashire. And it's a lovely area. It spans with kind of like Clitheroe, Blackburn area was where I grew up. So we went, to the old little village school when I was younger, through into secondary school, which was Queggs in Blackburn, and then went to university at Newcastle. So I did the normal run through the education system. Spent most of my time as a kid riding bikes, playing every sport possible, depending on what season it was, cricket, football. The only thing I didn't really play was rugby until I got to uni. Then I started playing. Ironically, I went from pure football boy, then got to uni and completely flipped and started doing like Thai boxing and rugby and American football. And that was actually the main flip of me going into the gym more as a focus to get bigger and stronger. So I've been going to the gym from when I was about 15. My neighbor at the time, who was a farmer, invited me to go to the gyms with him on an evening. So he would drive me. We were there in the Land Rover, just tootle off to the gym. And we went to this old school upper floor warehouse gym. It was called Bert's. It was called, what was it called? Pendle.
Oh. Near Preston.
No, it was in a place called Nelson, small town.
Yeah.
And it was called Pendle Health Studios. That was what it's called. And it was run by this old bloke called Bert. And he'd just been there forever and a day. And it was just full of original old school bodybuilders who were just, they were happy to like lend a hand and teach you things. So as 15, you got all these people in there who've been doing it for decades. It was great. And it was one of those old school gyms that even had the Popeye circular dumbbells. Had a few sets of those in. I've never seen them since. So that was a really good experience, my introduction into that kind of weightlifting world. And because I then also, luckily, in my secondary school, I went on, I did biology, chemistry, maths. Never do maths at A-level. Stupid decision. Worst thing I ever did. I went from being able to be like a B, I think I got like a B, nearly an A at GCSE. And then A-level maths came, and it was like going from jumping over like a puddle to trying to clear the Grand Canyon. It was the level of difference between the two. I went from being able to do maths to just being in the corner with a D hat on my head. It was insane. So I hated maths, but I loved chemistry and biology. So I carried those through to uni. But at the time, my biology teacher, one of them was I went snowboarding with one of them, but the other dude, Dr. Pearson, legend, he was a guy he looked like he had Johnny Bravo build. He was just super tall, big broad shoulders and things came in. And he must have been like 6'3" or something. And he took us weightlifting as part of, we had this, we used to call it a tumble session, they called it. So we would have our normal sports afternoons, but then we'd have another day for sport. Shouldn't happen anymore. If anything, they've cut it all back, haven't they?
Yeah.
I think people struggle now to even get sports in schools, but we had like 2 full separate days of it. And on one of them, was tumble session, was the idea that every 4 weeks you would rotate to something new. And it would be like 1 week you'd be doing cricket, and next you'd be snowboarding, then rugby or whatever, and it'd flip. But then you could stay in a sector if you really enjoyed it. Well, he set up the ability for us to go to a gym in town with him as a group. And so we started training at 15, 16, just probably about 16, going into town with this biology teacher who just had these giant pecs and chest. But the only reason he didn't get any bigger was because his wife wouldn't let him.
genetically fine to keep going, but his wife was like, listen, you're going to burst your clothes. We can't afford you to buy you a new t-shirt.
He was a big boy. I remember watching him in the gym. He was showing us how to do chest press. I remember on the negatives, his chest would just go, and I just remember thinking, that's a bloke, that's a man, that's how he should look.
Yeah.
And
an alpha role model for you.
Lucky in that.
A really alpha role model for you and somebody to be
surrounded by. Because he was this big, gentle guy, really intelligent, but then underneath this suit that he was wearing was this, semi-jacked dude. Like, he wasn't shredded, but he was like old school look, with a big chest, narrow waist, and just good proportions everywhere. So it was kind of inspiring to see that you could be both of these things. You could be an intellect and be in the gym.
And your weight training started to get more serious when you're at uni and you're playing rugby. And when did the fighting start? Was that at uni as well?
Yeah, a little bit, but not competitively. So at uni, I was playing a load of basketball all the way through college, up to North of England standard. I went for like trials with all of that as point guard. But that ended up falling through because it's Britain and we have no funding for basketball. So I actually got in and then the whole thing collapsed. But yeah, it was cool to get to that level. So then when I went to uni, I went for trials with the Newcastle University basketball team. Now, when I was coming up through sports, we were constantly drilled. If somebody makes a mistake, you don't bash them for it. You pick them up and you get back and you defend, like as a team. Nobody worries about the error that just happened. Everybody regroups and gets back. And these boys were running around. It was solo versus solo. There was no teamwork whatsoever. I remember being just like, what is this mess? There was just ego, greed going on. And my roommates were rugby players. So they were like, well, come and try out for the rugby team with us. And I was like, well, I don't know the rules of rugby, really. They were like, well, you don't need to. You're going to be a winger anyway. Just catch the ball and leg it. And so we went for trials. I ended up playing rugby for the university instead. And then because I got into the rugby team, I got so excited about it. I was like, right, I want to tackle harder, hit harder. How do we do that? Well, let's get into the gym again, but this time with a real focus on free weight work and actual bodybuilding to get, because I still did have that awe of bodybuilders, because I was looking more towards the older school guys, though, that had already kind of come and gone. But they were the big guys who were up on the pictures in that original gym I went to, because it was an old school gym. So you had like Sean Ray in his heyday, Flex Wheeler, obviously Arnold, and all these, and even like pictures of Stallone. So that was my ideal, not these big lumbersome 300-pound going to die when you're 40-year-old guys now, which is sad. Like, I think the bodybuilding does need reining in a bit. We're getting too many people popping off.
Yeah, golden. You will look at the golden era, the golden aesthetics, like really smaller.
What was probably, it already passed when I was looking at them, but they were probably 1990s, weren't they?
Yeah,
that kind of that era. But yeah, now we've had like 5 people die this year alone already.
Yeah,
all heart related and God knows what. Yeah. So hopefully we'll see that come back round again and it get more towards aesthetics and stop these guys trying to get too big.
Yeah.
Do
you know what?
So I went from where are we at? Tangent. I'm good at tangenting. You'll have to keep me reined in.
I love a tangent, Lex, but I'll bring you back. Don't worry. So you're at uni. You're getting more into your rugby. You're training for
that was
more
it.
size now. Get more strength.
Yeah, I just started. trying to do that. So I got more interested in obviously power movements. So just getting your combines in, deadlift, squatting, bench, and I started to take a really good shape because obviously now I was hitting adolescence as well. So you're hitting that 18 to 21 year where you start to really body changes as it would do naturally, but obviously you're also now hitting the weights with this hormone rush. So I really shaped up in the first year of uni. Like I came back and everyone, when we met up from college, I remember one of the lads took a look at me when I walked in. He went, Jesus Christ, it looks like someone stuck a bicycle pump up your ass. Because I just, because I was always a really skinny kid.
Were you? Okay, so that surprises me. You look like you're like a good responder though. Yeah,
well, my proportions are really good as well. So it gives the illusion of me being bigger than I actually am. And I live a pure pump life. Like I look like a different person in the gym to outside the gym. Like it's ridiculous. I went training with, we had, Fish and Rice Cakes guy.
Yeah. I remember him.
Yeah. So we had him on the podcast and we ended up being really good friends. He's such a top bloke. So we ended up training together up in Preston. And we started the session normally, and we got about to the 4th or 5th exercise in, and he just took a look at me and went, Jesus Christ, it looks like you've gained 30 pounds of muscle. I was like, I know. I said, if only I stayed looking like this, but people don't understand that. And that's a big lack of things with socials is people don't understand when you're seeing people looking jacked and crazy. That's like peak. It doesn't stay like that. That lasts probably 30 minutes. Yeah. So much so that it's like, get the pictures now, quick. So much so that you're there going, the pump's fading, quick.
It's because all those carbs around your workout, Lex, and that pre-workout protocol we just spoke about. It's magic. People need to get involved.
It's 100% why it works. Yeah, because the body's just soaking that glycogen up into the muscle, pulling water in with it, which just makes it get thick and tight against the skin. Plus, you got all that vasodilation from the NO2 stuff that I'm taking. So you get this like double whammy effect. It's really great because it's inspiring to see, and you want that carrot on a stick in the mirror, don't you? If you ever catch the view in the mirror, if you ever reach that, you're done. Because the mirror, your reflection should always be ahead of where you want.
You can't walk around like that though. It's not possible, is it? But I think some people do get a dysmorphia where they always want that, and that's maybe why you see these guys who are 300 pounds walking around. They're chasing this image in their head that they'll never get to.
Yeah, I was discussing it with somebody the other day. We were talking about it, and people forget that, yeah, you look like this 300-pound dude and he's jacked, but the heart's still working the same, having to carry 300 pounds around. So people, forget that is still a stress on the heart, just being that body weight, because the body shouldn't be that heavy. Like, obviously, they're using pharmaceuticals to surpass what the human body would be capable of, but in doing so, they're putting the body under stress the moment they cross over into those supernatural kind of gains, and then that's when we get these guys now are going off, because they're getting these aortic dissections occurring inside, so they're literally bleeding out internally. Then they're getting, the blood pressure causing strokes and heart attack. God, it just needs reining in. I don't think it's so much anything to do. I don't think, like, people blame the drugs. I think it's the lifestyle. They're just trying to get too big. They're eating 10,000 calories a day every day. That's a stress on every part of the body, from mental to gut to physical. Like,
yeah, completely agree. And
can't sustain that.
Even years
for
ago,
me, it was always the functionality, which obviously you do as well. That's the way to go, and then you can see how far you can push getting size while still doing your functional stuff, and you'll realize when this starts to affect this, and then you're like, okay, well, where do I want my balance? Do I want to maintain this functionality, or am I really not bothered about losing that? Then I'll get a bit bigger. And so you can find that happy medium then. And a lot of people don't do that. They tend to just go one way or the other, and don't find that happy balance. And then so they end up hating it because they're too extreme on one side. And you see, and that's when people just drop off or disappear. You see that a lot with people who go really extreme, especially with the dieting and things like that. I think one of the benefits for me is long term, I've always just kind of slowly ticked away, never been in a rush to kind of do anything, and just, I'm happy to kind of reset stuff as well all the time. Like, I'm literally learning to walk again. Can you believe that? I'm a giant toddler is what I am right now.
Is this the back of the content I saw about your feet? Remember you were getting treatment on those?
Yeah. So from fighting, I've developed an issue with the feet where the soles have gone flat. And what's happened is that because you're constantly on your toes, all your weight goes onto the big toe, and it causes it to start bending inward. Like, you see women who wear heels for too much, and they get these, bunions they call them, don't they? You'll notice it on loads of fighters now. You'll see it, and it creates, because of all that pressure on the toe, it develops like a calcium buildup on the joints. Like, the bone thickens and it starts to bend inward, and then that affects how because most people's toes can do this.
Spread, yeah.
Mine can't. Mine do like this. Like, they're so tight. All the fascia is so tight. So the toes effectively like that. So my base was all over the show. Then on top of that, I had a lazy left glute. So I got a lazy left ass cheek. And what's happening was I was having my weight displacement was all over the show, but then also my glute wasn't firing properly. So when I'm walking, I would do a normal walk, but then the glute wouldn't engage on the left side as I drive through. So it was all going on the knee and the quad. And then rather than the glute then activating to pick the leg up and push it back through, the leg was just dead swinging. Just like dead swinging through, like a peg leg. And I didn't notice it until I watched someone video of me walking off. I was like, what's my left leg doing? Why is it why is the foot facing that way? And why is it just swinging like it's like then when you get up, you got pins and needles and it doesn't work. It was doing that. So now I literally have been learning to walk again, and now I can feel my own butt cheeks doing this now.
Yeah.
That's how disconnected I was from them. That now they're working. I can feel them.
It's an awareness of them now. Like, you connect to it in a way that you've never done before. You get people that are like, oh, I've never connected with my arms when I'm training before, and you show them a few different bits and pieces.
Yep.
And they're like, wow.
Some people get the bicep. I got the buttock.
Yeah, that's it. So when you finished university, Lex, what did you do with your degree? What was the plan after that?
Yeah, my first degree was in just straight biology. So that included plants, animals, the whole shebang. And yeah, so I did that degree. It was 3 years in Newcastle, and through that time I played a lot of rugby, and we went on to do American football for the university as well, because that was just a cool that is a violent game. Wow, that is a violent game. In rugby, in one season of American football, we had more and worse injuries than the entire 3 years of rugby.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Wow. Although we were the only rugby team to have someone airlifted off a field because we hurt them.
Was that one of your tackles, Lex?
Yeah, no, it wasn't one of me, but it was one of. Well, our pack for the rugby team weighed more than the British international.
Wow,
There
serious.
were some big boys. Yeah, I was winger outside centre, other than one game where I played fullback, which is the worst position in the sport of rugby, because all you get is power forwards breaking through the line at 6 foot odd with all they hear at that moment, like everything shuts off to them other than this song tune, "This Is My Moment" comes on, and you just see them look at you and then they go, oh, and all they do is beeline at you. And I'm like, okay, cool. So which leg am I going to tangle my body around? Try and trip them up with my being. Yeah, it sucked. But I scored my best try ever. We were in our own try zone, and I got the ball, and I came around the outside and went all the way up the wing for a try. I went from try line to try line.
Beautiful.
As a fullback. So that was my best try ever, but worst position ever. But yeah, so so rugby all the way through uni. But at the uni, I actually started doing a little bit of Thai boxing because it was, there's a dude just holding classes in the gym center. So I went and had to go at that, but it was all pad work and just combos. So there was never any sparring. And then when I came back, I went into personal training, did personal training for qualification, and I was doing a bit of PTing, and I ended up PTing, training in the gym where there was some doormen. And one night, one of the lads said, "Listen, we're a lad down. Do you fancy coming and doing a night on the doors?" Well, I hadn't done any real fight or anything at this point. I was just like, I had boy band hair, I was like, really? Me? It was like, oh, you'll be fine, mate. We've got it locked down. We just need the body there. You'll enjoy it. It's, X amount per hour, cash. Yeah, I was like, okay, I'm in, cool. And then ended up that they took me on then more regularly because, it was to have somebody on the door who could talk people down.
For sure.
They didn't really have that before because all the other lads were like, ready. Always just, yeah, let's have it. Whereas I had somebody who could just talk somebody into realizing what they're doing was dumb. I was quite useful, but then eventually it was like, well, I need to learn to handle myself. I need to learn what it's like to get in a bad situation. So the boys were doing Thai boxing. And so I went to a real Thai class with them where, you get more involved. It's a little bit harsher. And then that spread into, at the time, MMA was just coming through in England. And so there was an MMA class that kicked off, and one of the guys was like, come with me. We ended up going, and it turns out, I had a decent skill set for MMA. And so then that led me more into doing, so I was then working through the day doing the PTing, then I'd go to fight training, then I'd go work on the doors. And it was just kind of, I started building that up, and then eventually just ended up, really enjoyed the fighting, the competitive side of it. It was really inspiring to see a lot of guys in there who were quote unquote naughty people. If they had a name about themselves, then maybe some of them had been to jail and things like that in their past. And they were coming to this club to do the MMA, and it was really giving them direction.
Yeah.
It helped really dial them in and gave them accountability of what they're capable of with their hands. But in doing that, it also meant that they had nothing to prove anymore out on the streets, because they're proving it now in a competitive ring and environment. So these guys went from fighting every weekend on nights out to literally walking away and getting in a taxi. And for some of those boys, that was a 180-degree turn in their life, which is huge.
You see that a
so
lot.
People
with
talk
arts.
about. Say again.
You see that a lot with martial arts, don't you? It gives people a purpose and fulfillment. And actually, a lot of boxers that I know in the Scottish scene, they say that boxing saved them from a lifetime of crime and jail sentences.
Literally saved them. Yeah, I saw one guy whose entire perception changed, and he was really straight laced. He was really committed. He got in incredible shape, best shape he'd ever been in, and the proof was the fact that when he stopped training, I think the class ended up moving because of for whatever reason at that time. These smaller clubs ended up shifting around more, because certain spaces where they were renting out would often just get flipped and turned around and suddenly not be available. Unlike now where things are much more kind of centered. He ended up not training for like a couple of months because things got flipped about, and he went right back because that structure was taken away from him. He ended up just slipping back with the wrong people, doing the wrong things again. So that is just direct proof that this one thing was completely keeping him off that negative path.
Yeah.
So as much as the fight game can seem aggressive or seem like something that's damaging, for many, many people, it's absolutely life-changing in the best way.
Within your fight career, Lex, it all kind of came to a head towards the end, didn't it? Where you had a particularly disappointing result in a fight that kind of pushed you away from it. Can you tell us a bit what happened there?
So I never intended to fight, but it was, when you're training, you're getting better and better, and the coaches are seeing progression. And with it being so fresh as well at the time, the whole MMA scene wasn't as structured. So you could be a Thai guy and they would just put you in against a pure jiu-jitsu dude. Like, there wasn't really that crossover. So we were lucky in the fact we were being taught wrestling and stand-up. But a lot of these guys were just being taught wrestling or jiu-jitsu, and they weren't really any good with their hands. So they were coming into these MMA tournaments not really knowing that they're going to fight a guy that's going to come and kick and knee them. And also, judo guys not allowed to punch on the floor. So as soon as they're getting hit suddenly on the floor, all of those moves that they're used to throwing in and trapping people in goes out the window when you're suddenly getting banged in the face midway through it. So my coach ended up talking me into doing this local tournament, and it was like an Ironman thing. Dude, it's one of the roughest things I've ever experienced, but you basically, it was like winner stays on kind of job. You win, you go through to next round up to a final point. But it meant you had like 5 fights in one day. So I ended up winning the tournament because I was pretty decent with my leg kicks and stuff like that from Thai, and I have an unusual ability to like throw short, I can throw hard punches, and I don't need a big wind up. But it's just a genetic. I've naturally got a really nice knockout shot. So I was lumping these judo guys up with leg kicks, like just chopping them down endlessly. And then when it got to the floor, I was just punching. So I ended up winning the thing. But the next day, I couldn't walk for 3 days because I've been bouncing my shins and feet just off people's bones just for a full afternoon. And honestly, I'm not joking when I say I literally couldn't walk for 3 days. They had my feet all swelled up, everything. I was like, this is a fight game. Yeah, it's all great when you're winning, but literally an hour later, I could feel stuff starting to seize up as we went to the pub, classic British thing, celebratory pub drink. Yeah, I could feel it going then. But that buzz of getting in the competition and winning was like nothing. It even beat out kind of that team sport of rugby or football when you win a match. So I got kind of addicted to it then. And at the time as well, I got to train with Bisping. Obviously, if anybody watches MMA, Michael Bisping, everybody knows. He's been incredibly successful and fair play as well. The guy's given literally most of his body to it. He's had 2 knee replacements and he's lost an eye.
Crazy.
Like, dude fought for 4 years with one eye. There's a really good podcast with him on Joe Rogan, and he talks about how he got through the medicals. Like, he basically cheated his way through the medicals so nobody knew he couldn't see out of his, I think it's his right eye. Mad. Crazy. Yeah. And what a tough guy though. 4 years fighting with one eye. The best in the world, the upper echelon of the MMA world. And he's in there with one eye.
Yeah.
And becomes champion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just so tough. So to be able to train with him in the early days was, that was an absolute privilege. I was super lucky. So I had a lot of inspiration to keep moving with that. But the last fight that you were talking about, I had a title fight in Warrington. So it was like a British title. And for some unknown reason, they put a rookie ref in there for this match. And I don't know why, because they had a really top tier referee in there for the next match. He should have just done both the title fights because there were 2 title fights. But for whatever reason, they put this rookie dude in there, and he ended up, bearing in mind I'd trained for 8 to 10 weeks hard for this fight, like full commitment, full camp, training twice a day. I was the fittest I've ever been in my life. I could fight 5 5-minute rounds against 18 stone guys in my gym. That's what I was doing for this session. I was super fit. And I nearly knocked the guy out within the first 30 seconds, but the problem was I got so excited. He came in because he was a wrestler. He came in and I Thai clinched him and I put a knee into him, but I caught him right in the jaw, fresh. And I felt his whole body go, ooh. Like, and then when it landed in my head, I went, ooh, like I felt it. It was clean. But then because I felt it so much and I was so proud of this shot, my body went, hey. Well, my ego did. It went, hey, man, remember those Van Damme movies you used to watch? I'm like, yeah. He's like, remember that head kick you used to do? I'm like, yeah. He goes, this is your moment, bro. This is your moment. Do the head kick. What I should have done was stood and uppercutted and just finished him punches. But no. I tried to step back and do a flash head kick finish. And it gave him the chance to bull rush me because he was on Queer Street, but he broke. Oh, that's just treated a load of people, but I don't care. Anyway, so he just went into autopilot, which for wrestlers is bull rush and grab legs. And because it was an abnormally small cage, this was the problem with these things at the time. The cages were all such different sizes, and this was a really unnecessarily small one, which favors wrestlers because he was able to get me to the cage side first, and he managed to suck my legs out from underneath me and get me down. So I was just kind of nullifying him. He went for an Americana, and I was blocking it by you sit on. Was it a Kimura? He went for a Kimura, and you sit on your arm like palm face down on the floor. And if you can get your arm like that, dude's not getting it out. Like it's not going anywhere. So I was waiting for it to be stood back up. So I'm waiting. And then the ref stands us up, and you see it in the video. I get up and I'm ready to go again. Like, sweet, we're up. Here he goes. And we take him out now. And the referee stopped the fight. He called it and given it to this other guy because he said my arm was in a dangerous position for too long. That's like kicking a football somewhere near the goal and the ref going, yeah, you can have it. Like, unless you hear a tap or a snap, that fight doesn't stop. So I'd had this title fight, camp, fight come. We had hundreds of people there supporting us. It all kicked off in the stands. They all started fighting. That was, fair play for the support. But it turned out that was like a real catalyst because at the same time, I'd also been, my girlfriend at the time had made me send some pictures into one of these agencies because I was in shape from the fight, like really good shape. I was like, whatever, yeah. She took some pictures and she sent them off. Well, this their company at the time, they called me back to take me on to go and do some fitness modeling work for them. And the first thing they wanted me to do was go to do a men's health cover. So when this fight thing happened, at the same time, I'd been offered this men's health cover. So it was just like, well, sod that. If that's what's going to happen, if that's how much they care about the amount of effort we've put into this fight game, and that had all just been pulled out from under my feet, I was like, you know what, I'm going to go take this opportunity and go and have a go at this. And that's how I kind of ended up going into the
fitness world for the first time. Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? How one door closes, or you close a door that you feel is kind of not quite right for you.
Every time something seemingly seems like end of the world, rug pulled out from under your feet, grey clouds coming down. Every time something like that happens to you, or has happened to me, I've always gone on a better route because of that seemingly terrible thing at the time. If that hadn't happened, maybe I'd have won that fight. Like, I was never going to be a world-class fighter. I started too late. I hadn't trained as a kid. You know what I mean? It was unlikely, not impossible. I could have done well probably on a local stage, but international, so I could have still been going and getting paid £500 to get my, head kicked in. But instead, it sent me off on this other direction that led me to end up being in YouTube, working for companies, being my own boss, creating my own products and doing this whole online thing, which otherwise may never have happened,
Yeah, so I love it.
It's crazy.
Who were you watching at the time on YouTube? Who were you consuming content from?
Matt Ogus. Ogus was the boy. He started that whole, it was Ogus cake. Do you remember that era? Ogus cake and his shredding when he sat there with his giant salads and everything. He actually inspired me to start doing YouTube videos because I'd come out of the fighting, and because I needed a goal set, because if I don't have a goal set, I am the worst. I just go all meander everywhere.
Lex, you and I were speaking about this when particularly that second lockdown hit, when stuff got stripped away from us and it was so oppressive. We, even as highly motivated guys, it was a bit of a loss, wasn't it? There was a time where you're just like, you're wondering what next.
The first one I did all right in.
Same.
Because we had that sunshine, didn't we? But that second one, I was depressed. 100%. I still have only kind of just got over it, and sometimes I'll still slip back into it now. And I've never had that before, but I'm very aware of the feeling of being depressed. Unlike some people who I know it can consume them and they haven't quite realized, I'm very aware the moment it's kicking in. It doesn't mean I can fight it, but I'm very aware. So it does mean I can start challenging it.
You're changing into energy. we've spoken about this before, and a lot of your content speaks about energy, and you're very focused on when that energy isn't where it needs to be, and you see it in your comment section when people say you're Lex again, or you don't seem like you, Lex. And people use this term because they've consumed so much of you, they've seen so much of you, and you've been very open about who you are throughout your content, that they can tell when he's not on the same level as he normally is, or wow, Lex is back, Lex is bringing the fire.
Yeah, it's funny because I didn't realize I wasn't being me, and that's the hidden power of the depressive state, isn't it? Is you don't realize how much it's dulling you down and pulling energy out of you. And I always say is the only reason it's not a weakness to be depressed. It's not a weakness to say, to find out you've been depressed for years and think less of yourself. That's not the case. It takes no energy for depression to exist. And that's the problem, is it takes energy to get up, be happy, be motivated, make plans, commit to plans, carry forward the habits. And people think that it's wrong to have to, God, it takes me so much energy just to do this. No, that's normal. Everybody you see who's out there seemingly kicking ass is having to make that energy to get there. They're not just waking up and feeling it. And I think the more people know that, the easier it is for them to be like, oh, okay, I am normal. I am all right. It is okay to feel like it's an effort to get this going. The difference is the more you routine it and keep it going, the easier it becomes to keep it going. But it's still always going to take energy. And even little things can knock you off. Like I got really into doing like just 10, 15 minutes meditating every morning. And I thought, this is really quite nice. I used to be really bad for hearing noises when I was trying to go to sleep. Like I could hear a clock ticking through a wall, and I'd have to go and take that clock down from the other room and take the battery out. If there was any light in the room at all, I couldn't sleep. Cars going past would wake me up. From doing literally a couple of weeks meditation, I was able to sleep with the blinds up, window open, and nothing, because I was able to just accept sound as just being that, a peripheral noise that has nothing to affect me. Whereas before, I'd tune in and focus on that. And that's why I wouldn't be able to ignore it. So I was like, oh, that's really cool. I've been able to, for something since I was a child that's bugged me, I've been able to change really quickly. So I saw the power of that ability to quieten your mind. But then from that, it was just like, okay, that's cool. I'll keep that going. I stopped meditating for whatever reason it was. I think I was getting more stressed about work and algorithm of bullshit of YouTube. We had the COVID thing, everything kicked in. And I just kind of fell away from doing it. And I didn't realize that what it did was slowly that failure pulled over into other aspects of my habits in the days. I slowly failed to stop loading my vitamin tray with the week's worth of vitamins. I slowly stopped cooking fresh meals because it was easier to eat the stuff that was pre-prepped. And it just, so this failure slowly pulled energy from every aspect, and they all kind of slowly folded inward until I realized, oh crap, everything's gone to shit. Everything has just suddenly just fallen. And I hadn't even realized it because it was such a slow little process. But it's that ability to catch that and go, right, well, now we know. Let's change this. And even if you change it for 2 days and then fail again, that's cool. Doesn't matter. Reset, start again. And I think people need to understand that it's fine to just stop, reset, take a breather, go again. You haven't, just because you fail one day doesn't mean all those other successful days are suddenly worth nothing. All you need is more wins than losses, and you'll progress. You don't have to be perfect. You just got to try.
I love that.
Yeah, it's honest. And I have really struggled. There's been a lot going on in life. Like my mum had a cancer scare. She had to come and live with me because she had to have like a full hysterectomy. So she had to come and live with me for like 2 months, because she could to rehabilitate. Then we had loads of contract losses through COVID, obviously, as well. Yourself, online stuff just kind of came to a grinding halt. Loads of my series I was having to fly out to Ireland to do, which was a great privilege. Couldn't do any of that. Loads of stuff I had planned all got cancelled because it was all in Portugal and abroad. So there's all these things that are just like flap, flap, flap. And as much as you're like, yeah, man up, I can take this, they're slowly just tink, 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 tinking away at you. And I've realized now, like literally this year, that I need to take responsibility for stuff again, because working for other people too much makes you complacent. And so I'm going to take life by the balls again. Now I've caught my depressive state. I'm capable of getting myself out of that now. I know it because I've successfully done it. I'm back and I'm enjoying my sessions. Whenever I put something out online and I say something, I'm saying it to myself as much as I'm putting it out for other people. That's what I find.
One of the greatest ways to teach something to yourself is to teach it on to others, because it refreshes the lesson, because you have to reframe it in a way that they can understand, and best believe that speaks to your mind as well. So I completely agree. When you're speaking to your audience about things that you're doing for your well-being and your energy, it's just a reminder, Lex, this is what works for me. Colin, this is what works for me. I'm just sharing it because you guys can benefit too. But best believe I need to remember this lesson, because I've been there where it drops off. And you articulate it so well, where you're talking about that snowball effect, where if one particular important keystone habit falls off, unfortunately, domino, snowball, whatever term we want to use, it all slides into the other.
Because it takes no energy for them to all fall away. Yeah. Zero energy for you to stop doing something. And that's the problem, isn't it? So if one falls away, it's that habit of laziness builds through everything instead of that habit of progressiveness. But that's normal, guys. We all get that. Nobody is perfect all the time. You just got to be, more wins than losses, and slowly you'll just get better and better. So I found that. I do, honestly though, if you haven't tried meditate, do you meditate?
I don't meditate, but I have a couple of things that are like it, but I'll be interested to hear what you say before.
What is it you do then? Intrigued now.
I do a few different things. So one, walk in nature, which we both spoke about, and that's with no input. That's with no podcast, no earphones. Now, don't get me wrong, most of my walks that I do, I have content on, or I'm taking notes, or I'm thinking about who I'm going to talk to on the podcast next, and I'm doing research. But sometimes walk in nature, no input, no data on your phone, and just take in the outside. And the other one, and this is another one, it's about having no input, because I'm somebody that's massive on self-development, and it's really easy to never be off. When you drive back from the gym and you're full of endorphins and you're buzzing, I'll normally have like the tunes on, or I'll have another podcast on, or I'll phone a friend. Turn the radio off or whatever's on for the 10, 15 minutes you drive back, which typically it is for me.
Yeah.
And you're just,
same for me.
It's wild. You actually feel like the sensation of like the car wheel. You notice things around you that you don't normally notice on your journey. And I think it's really important to just be within that. Now, of course, you've got the
staying present when you walk throughout the gym.
Yeah. And you and I have spoken at this before as well. Like when you're in the gym, you tell people off for being on their phones too much, because you're already getting enough dopamine from the training. You're probably full of caffeine or a pump product.
Just fact, I don't walk around the gym telling people off. Although, dude, I tell people off via online things. Yeah. I have a good rant on that, actually. I'm going to post up on Instagram in a bit. But one of the guys messaged me from online when I put up a thing about, he messaged me going, I love a good Lex mobile phone rant. And then I said, yeah, I said I should get a mallet to just walk around and knock it out of people's hands. Then he sent me a picture of a guy. It was a guy called Timmy Mallet. And he was a children's TV guy. He used to have a big foam hammer, and he'd do questions. If you got them wrong, he'd smack you on the head with the hammer.
There's a video in this, Lex. There's a video in this.
How funny would it be to dress up as Timmy Mallet and be the phone police? Every time you see someone on the phone in the gym, you walk up and just donk them with this big rubber hammer like on their head, and just video it and see people's reactions. I think it'd be fucking lit. I'd probably get punched. I'd have to be like ducking and weaving.
You can fight, so they aren't bothered if they start with you.
But I think that'd be a really funny video. But the amount of people you get to hit would be shockingly high.
Yeah.
The amount of people you train together, you'd be able to double wallop. Dude, the amount of times I see somebody doing their set, the guy stood above him, like,
yeah.
What on earth? Just face in the phone, just like that, completely dead, not looking. It's a privilege to be able to train with somebody else. You know how lucky you are to have somebody there to watch and push you. You should be in there going, when they put that weight down, they're dead another rep. You go, nah, back down, get those two. You should, because that's what they'll do for you. And the same, that accountability of getting to the gym. Where are you? That is a privilege.
Connection as well. You're both on the journey, pushing each other for betterment.
You should both be progressing all the time. You should be. I used to get pleasure out of seeing my training partners hit new PRs, get a better rep, do that move that they couldn't connect with before. You know, that was the goal. And these just phone in face like this, but absolutely not present. Being on your phone in the gym is literally pulling you out of that gym mindset. So how do you expect to get any work done? And these are the same guys that then walk around going, everyone's on steroids, bro. No, you train like shit, pardon the language. But that end of. None of your sets count because I've watched them training because I get mad. Because when I put the weights down, when I'm done, and I'm gathering myself after the set, because I have to gather myself after every set, even the warm-up set. I'm squeezing, I'm making, there's a purpose to it. I have to take a moment. These guys have a tick where they let go of the machine they're using and the hand goes to the pocket to get the phone, like they're going for a gun holster. Like, it's immediate. So their focus is fully on that phone the whole time.
This is a real red pill moment, Lex, because a lot of us do it, and I've noticed myself do it many times as well. It's a tick, as you said. It's a habit which is become ingrained, where we finish the set, we check our phone, we check Instagram, we check Twitter, we do whatever. I'm trying to strike a balance between logging my weights on my phone on an app called Gravitas, which is quite good, or using.
Now, does it need to be online though when you do that?
There we go.
Airplane mode your phone.
You've got the solutions, Lex, and I'm here for it. I love it.
Just shut every other app down, have nothing else running, and only have that on your screen in airplane mode, because you can still listen to music, because you should be able, if you're on Spotify, you can download their playlists. You don't need to be online. You can download your gym playlist, and it'll just be on there offline. No excuses. And I take a bag in, and my phone goes in a zip pocket in my bag. So it's double detached away from me. It's in another place, not my pocket, behind a zip. So it takes an effort to go in to get that out. Huge. And so that gives me time to catch myself going to it.
Friction. It's friction. It's friction in between to make the habit, which you've grooved, easier to stick to, and make the bad habit harder to do. But Lex, I want to go towards that goal that you set yourself after you left fighting, and it was prepping for a BNBF show. Were you prepping?
Because like we said, tangent, as you've just witnessed. I needed a goal set. So I decided, one of the guys came up and said, well, there's a BNBF bodybuilding show, and it was happening in like 7 weeks. So I just ended up jumping on to this show just to have a go. Just was like, well, I'll just have a go at this. I probably won't do very well, but I'll at least get the experience, and then it'll give me a goal set for a show later down the line, because I'll know what to expect. But I ended up doing pretty well. I think I ended up making top 5, was it? Or maybe I didn't. Maybe in that show I didn't do well, but I should have done better than I did. And everyone was coming up to me afterwards going like, that's bullshit. You should at least be in top 5 of this. I didn't really care too much. Obviously I was annoyed because I could see clearly, that there were some very unscrupulously unfair decisions on that day, which I don't like about the whole bodybuilding thing, because it was. And I found out later that it's more of how many shows have you done before? How many times have you been there? And people were getting placed because...
Who's your coach as well? And is he a judge?
Oh, just so ridiculous. Just honestly, whoever's best on the day, if they ate fish fingers for 8 weeks and came in and beat you, it's just tough shit. You got no coach and 8 fish fingers. Tough. They should win if they look the best.
But how did you eating foods like fish fingers potentially, and maybe even white bread and barbecue meat, how did that get you noticed by the one and only Gymshark?
This is the thing. So I got a lot of positive feedback from that show, even though I, didn't be put where I should have been. But what also happened was I'd started to do the YouTube online to document, just for accountability. I was just putting my training up and stuff coming into the show, because I was watching Matt Ogus do all this stuff. I thought, well, I'm going through a diet phase now. I'll start putting stuff up. And obviously the first show was quite a short run into it. So it was pure bro. I was bro as could be for that show. So I went in flat and lost loads of weight, but still looked good because I have a good fitness background. So from actual sports, not just weightlifting. So the body, and what people don't understand is you can emaciate the body the first time round, and it will kind of hold on to a lot of stuff. It kind of buffers your errors. But if you keep doing it back to back to back, that's when you really start to see the real fall away and damage to metabolism and stuff like that. And you get this really bad relationship with food as well. And so the first time round, bro, literally rice cakes and boiled turkey breast, awful, horrible. Then I was watching Matt, and then Matt switched to macros. And I was like, ooh, what's this? And because I'm science-based, like my background is science, I looked at the science behind what he was doing. And I was like, I am in. And halfway through my diet for the next show at this time, which was going to be, it was at the time it was called Muscle Mania, but it wasn't the Muscle Mania now. The Muscle Mania now is a big, juicy boy ones. At the time, this was another one. It just had the same name. They changed the name in the end because it was there was conflict. This was a drug tested one again, like the BMBF, but it was called Muscle Mania, I think. I can't remember what it got changed to. I don't even think it's still running anymore. But I actually got sponsored to go and do that by, it was called Natural Bodybuilding Recognition Facebook page at the time. And I was became one of their sponsored athletes because they had links to these shows where they had a funding from something or other to be able to help people go in. So they basically paid all your entrance fees and stuff. And a percentage of your travel costs to get there, which at the time was huge because all I was doing was putting stuff up on YouTube to maybe get some free protein powder. That was it. And because, I like the idea of doing it. And it's actually, ironically, the time that I got sponsored to do natural bodybuilding, I was actually looking at doing full bodybuilding, NPCC, which would have mean crossing over to the dark side. So I was actually looking at, okay, right, what pharmaceuticals do you use? How do we do it safely? I was starting to look into all that. And that sponsorship actually stopped me doing that. So again, right now, if that hadn't happened, I could have ended up being a juicy bodybuilder, maybe having health problems.
Yeah, well, you expressed throughout this how worried you are about people who have been losing their lives at this stage because of what they've been doing in terms of the heavy weight and the lifestyle.
Well, I mean, it's just unnecessary. We've got guys dying in their 20s. We've got Boston Lloyd go, and he's a prime example. Huh?
Dallas McCarver as well. I think he passed away.
McCarver, that's the one. I can never remember the name. And he died because they think he had a bit of a, I think stroke's a bit of a strong word, but he had some kind of issue. And then he had it whilst eating, so ended up choking on his food. So that's how he went. Then you've got Boston Lloyd, who had a genetic heart defect in his family, and it was his aortic valve. Everyone thinks because he was in kidney failure as well, wasn't he? So the amount of drugs he's used has caused the kidney failure. And most people in kidney failure, they have an issue with being able to absorb, I think it's potassium, or they become, it's either they have an issue being able to absorb potassium or potassium becomes excessive within their system. I think it might be that. And it can lead to a heart failure. And so everyone thought that's what happened to him because he apparently came back from the gym and then just keeled over in his kitchen and was gone. But he went fast, and the actual autopsy has shown, no, he had an aortic dissection. So his aorta basically burst and he bled out internally. And your chance of surviving that is you have to be basically next door to a hospital when it happens to get lucky enough to be saved. So it turns out that probably the damage he caused from the drugs might have been able to be recovered through dialysis and a kidney transplant, but that genetic defect, which was in his family, exacerbated by the drugs, has taken him early. So it's a big warning sign to anybody who has issues within their family. It's not, you need to not only be looking at yourself when you do or consider these extreme things, you need to be looking at your history and heritage and getting genetic markers done to find out if you're, vulnerable to anything specific. You should be getting blood work done on a regular basis, which we're working with a guy at the moment to get more awareness of. He's got a clinic in Birmingham. He's actually on the CrewCast this week coming, and he's a TRT doctor, we call him. And he's incredible because he's zero bullshit. Like nothing. He just, when you get somebody whose intelligence is up here, but their street knowledge is also here, and you just get this perfect, he just calls things as they are. So much so that he doesn't get invited to some seminars because he will literally debunk half of the people going up there to speak.
It's bro science. Yeah, he calls them out.
Yeah, because a lot of them are tuned towards the sports that are there, and so they're trying to tailor what they're saying to get those sports on board with whatever it is they're trying to pitch. Whereas this guy's just like, well, that's a load of shit because you're doing these drugs, and so that's going to have no effect whatever, and this is going to kill people. And he's got some horror stories, dude, about the strongman world. They're to the point where guys are failing ECG exams. They're unable to walk on treadmills, for more than 10 minutes without cramping. But the people running these, it's a freaking TV show at the end of the day, is getting them to sign off waivers saying, you've told us you're healthy enough to do this, and any issues that you occur are on your own back. So that's literally them deciding, we know you're probably a high risk of death doing this, but it's cool as long as we're not held responsible.
Yeah.
They're willing to let people perish for a TV show. Like, where's the care for your athletes? How is that a federation with any kind of moral standing? And you see it, like Eddie Hall had to retire because he was literally going to die.
Yeah.
If he kept that weight, he was 300.
The photos of him now. He's prepping for this boxing fight, and he looks lean and mean. And you put it beside when he was winning his World's Strongest Man.
His head's like this, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's an absolute gorilla. Did you realize he's 6'3"?
Yeah.
I thought he was like 5'10".
Crazy.
So to his weight, he was over 300 pounds. Yeah. I can't even fathom that. To the point where he was so heavy, he developed sleep apnea because his own body weight was shutting his breathing down if he lay on his back. And that's a sport.
Yeah. Mad.
Sketchy. Tangenting again. Who do you think, Thor or Eddie?
I think Thor looks more athletic because he's super lean and mean. I think is Thor taller? I think he must be taller.
About probably 4 or 5 inches.
Yeah, so I think reach might come into it. I'm not a boxing expert by any shape or form, but maybe you'll be able to reach him. You know more about fighting than me, Lex. Who's going to win?
It's a tough one because if Thor can use the jab and keep Eddie away and make Eddie keep coming to him, for the first few rounds, he might be able to tire Eddie out and then just ting him off. But if Thor gets carried away and lets Eddie close too much all the time, doesn't keep the distance, I think Eddie will catch him with an overhand right.
Predictions made.
But I think if it goes longer, it goes more in Thor's favor. If he's able to work that jab. If he doesn't work the jab, overhand right from Eddie of some kind. Yeah.
Amazing.
But it's going to be a shit show. It's not going to be good. But it's free to watch.
Yeah, they're not fighters.
It's a spectacle. It's a spectacle, but don't expect a good boxing match.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if at one point they don't stand across the ring from each other with their hands on their knees. Just looking at each other like, oh, okay, let's go again. Honestly, that could happen, I think.
Yeah. I think that's the way we're going, though, because they are doing these deals with people who are literally celebrities and athletes in other fields rather than actually specifically fighting.
But I don't know how it's making so much money because it's free to watch.
Yeah, interesting.
And they're getting paid like $1 million each or something for it.
Yeah, sponsors, because if let's, for argument's sake, a betting company, if they put their logo on it, then how many people do you think will use that betting company to bet on who's going to win the fight and all that kind of stuff?
Do you think that works?
I think so. Well, if I was an energy drink company and I wanted to get eyes on my brand, do I sponsor that fight and I plaster it?
With all that exposure, assuming you get the views. But this is assuming you get the views because it's a website that you have to go and watch it on. Now
it's going to crash.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, are they ready for that kind of traffic? Because a lot of sites during Black Friday can't even handle people going to a checkout.
Yeah, agreed.
So if it crashes, which is quite likely. So I never know.
Let's bring you back from that tangent. You started to do your macro diet before this show.
Oh yeah,
and it got you spotted.
Matt Ogus is responsible for everything, really. He switched over to macros, and literally the next day, I did the same thing, and I got obsessive with it. I would pick out rice grains to get the perfect weight for my meals, but at the same time as well, nobody in England was doing macros. Nobody knew what it was, but because I had a science background, I was all in and knew I was pretty solid from the get-go. And I was well balanced nutritionally. I'd worked out my numbers, and I started vlogging. Suddenly I'm eating on a bodybuilding diet where you're supposed to be eating boiled chicken, rice cakes, and 6 almonds a day. I was suddenly sat there with this bowl of strawberries, some chocolate sludge made from protein with light whipped cream sprayed all the way through it, and people just were, well, what the hell are you doing? And I remember there was one video where I'm really lean because I'm about a week out from the show and I'm eating a barbecue outside. It's summer. So I look really vascular because obviously the sun's on you and I'm tanned. So that helps again. And then I've got on the table, I've got a barbecue going, and on the table in front of me, I've got ketchup, white bread, sausages, and I'm a week out from the show. And it just blew people's minds, like, what is happening? So, especially with it being a drug tested show as well, it also brought that whole hoo-ha in of, oh, whatever, he's not natty. Look at how he looks eating that, you know? So it just caused confusion and a bit of excitement. And it was just a really great little whirlwind that brought a lot of attention. And so by getting on YouTube and just being accountable to myself and putting these videos up and teaching people this is what macros is, that really launched the YouTube side of things for me. And then off the back of that video, where I'm in the back garden getting ready for this show, is when Ben and Lewis, who were the original starters of Gymshark, they were still printing stuff in like their garage, and they got in contact with me off the back of that video, and they were in contact with Matt Ogus and stuff at the same time. And then, they got in contact with me off that video because then they started sending me out samples to try to then send them back feedback about fitment. And then as that carried on, they then got in contact with Matt Ogus and Chris Lavado as well shortly after. So then all of a sudden, there was this connection to me and these American guys who I've been watching for forever, who I would otherwise never seen. And then they ended up bringing them over to do that one expo. Now, what people don't know is that expo where they launched that Lux tracksuit, and Matt and Chris were there, and there was me and there was Jeff.
Jeff Said, yeah.
Alan Gabby. Alan Gabby now, he's off now in the middle of, he's got like a retreat in the middle of nowhere. He's just a really spiritual dude. He was always a bit like that though. He was a clever guy, but he's literally just completely
digital nomad. Yeah.
He's off the grid now. Yeah. He got married with a woman who's the same mentality as him, and they host retreats now for people, and they just do loads of shamanistic kind of meditations and stuff like that. It's crazy where things go, but he seems really happy. So they literally, the money they made selling the stringers up to that point, they kind of pooled it and just put it all on that expo pretty much. So, and people don't know that was a big risk, but that was the day where they really launched themselves with that Lux tracksuit, and having Matt and Chris over as YouTubers. Body Power had never seen anything like it because there was a queue around the stand for these seemingly normal looking guys, because we were surrounded by these, Olympian bodybuilders who, 250 plus pounds. And yet there's this queue going out the fucking door of the bloody arena to get to this one stand with these seemingly just like,
there was a connection with you guys because people were investing hours of their week or their day watching you on YouTube. So best believe when they got the chance to meet you in person, incredible. They might admire or have some sort of awe about the physique of let's for argument's sake, like nowadays a Chris Bumstead or a Jeremy.
Well, Chris is an outlier though. Chris is an outlier because he's also a top guy, a really nice dude. Whereas most of these bodybuilders were just, you go get a picture from them, there'd be a desk in front of you. You'd literally reach over and do the classic, arm wrestle handshake and be like, so you'd be here, bodybuilder, then you'd be like, and that was every picture of every bodybuilder ever at those events. Whereas the Gymshark stand was open. We were high-fiving people, giving them a hug when they came up. It was a massive, and we had our tops off. People didn't used to do that, remember? The bodybuilders all used to be in hoodies. They'd be like a week out from the show. Yeah. Everyone's there to see how awesome they look, and they'd all be covered up from head to toe, wouldn't they? I never understood that. Like, you're not it's not like you're showing anything. You are what you are. You can't change anything in a week's time.
Mad.
It's a physique show, mate. Like, you can show what you've got. It's not that the judges are going to see it a week early and be like, oh, I've seen that already. You can't win. What was the mentality of that? It's so bizarre.
It's funny when you look at it. But you guys brought an energy to the fitness space that had not been seen before for relatively normal people. And that's what's important, because while your physiques are in the top 1% of the world in terms of how they look, people would struggle to get.
Do you think it's that high? Do you think it's 1%? I hope it's more than that.
Do you think so?
I hope it is.
If
there's only 1% of the world.
Have you walked through a city centre? Honestly.
Yeah, dude, I know. I live in a bubble out in the countryside as well. And obviously I'm working with, most of the time, other people doing what I do. And I forget what normal people do look like I remember I went to tangent warning. Went to a spa weekend. It was a gift kind of thing. And I remember went in, got the massages first, then went into like the main area with the jacuzzis and all that stuff. And I remember walking in and just being a bit like, ooh. And I was looking around and everybody was just kind of a bit blobby. Or, and then I realized, oh, I'm in a bubble. Yeah. I live in a bubble.
Yeah.
And then I realized, oh, this is what normal people look like. And they were just heifer lumps everywhere. I was just like, oh.
We have a genuine obesity crisis, and the kind of people that listen to a self-development podcast go against that, and they know it themselves when they look around in their office, when they look around their company. Even somebody who's maybe not quite got control of their weight yet and their body yet, but they're trying to make that change. People in their life will be pushing back against them, Lex, because they don't want them to change. So somebody listening to this right now will be listening to us, and they'll be like, yeah, I'd love to improve my physique, and maybe it's not quite where I want it yet, but the changes they're making, normal people we just talked about will be saying to them, no, you don't need to do that. Do you need to go and train tonight? Or
why are you obsessed?
Mad.
You're getting a bit obsessed with that. Why are you weighing your food? That's a bit obsessive. That's not normal. Or if you're a girl, ooh, you're looking a bit gaunt. Hey, fuck all you people. You don't look gaunt, okay? What happens is your face is slimming and you look good. And dude, weighing your food or prepping your food, that's admirable. That's not weird. These people are just trying to shut you down, so ignore them. And I had this chat with somebody recently as well. I said, you need to take a look at the people in your life. Do they stoke the flames of your fire, or do they piss on your fire? Because if at any point somebody isn't helping make the flames of your life bigger and higher and hotter, why are they in your life? And, you hear those people say, we'll just say, John or Emily. Yeah, they're all right most of the time. Well, hang on a minute. That means some of the time they're assholes. So why even put up with that in your existence? You don't need to. And when you get rid of these people, you open up yourself to go and do what you want to do without these naysayers, and you'll meet more like-minded people on that path. So you end up surrounded by a positive group of people rather than these naysayers or people that want to hold you back because they're not willing to do the same work and don't want to see you because do better because it's easier to pull others down than raise yourself up.
Completely agree. If I look around the people that are around me now, people that I went to school and university with, there's a handful of that remained because they are genuine, supportive, good people. The vast majority of my closest friends now, I've met over the last 5 years since I've regularly been posting on Instagram and creating a personal brand that has drawn people towards me, or I've connected with them. And they're people that I spend time with now because they push me in a positive direction. And that's not to say you should drown out people that aren't just yes men and like hype you up, but drown out people that are not pushing.
No, we're not talking about yes men. We're talking about people that will challenge you, but also, give you good ideas and question you when you have an idea about, okay, well, what's the theory behind that? Where's your they push you to look at things in different angles, but also there might be people that go, that's a damn good idea. We could do that together. You're like, fuck yeah, rather than somebody who's like, why are you doing that? That's weird. That's not normal. Well, fuck normal. You know what normal is? Not that 1%.
Yeah.
So, good. You're not normal. Take that as a compliment. Like, awesome. I don't want to be normal. You're normal. I don't want to be like you. You know what I mean?
What stands out in your early days with Gymshark and your content creation, Lex? What are some of the highs?
For me, it was the people. It was always the people. It was just a great group, and it was the golden era. It's not that anymore. We can all see that now on YouTube. We don't get that same crossover because companies have got so big now that everything's so sectioned off. Whereas in that heyday, everything was the Wild West. We would all group together in locations and go and do these mad events, and nobody knew how it was going to turn out. And that was half of the fun of it. So there's a real excitement and buzz there. We can all see now how body power is basically committed suicide by trying to make too much money out of itself rather than staying in its roots. And its roots were, bringing a community of people together to cause encouragement and motivation. And they lost that out to trying to make, people pay 50 quid a day to just walk around a giant hall. And then they charged the stand so much money to be there, the stand stopped going because it wasn't worth them. They couldn't make the money back. It was impossible. So we were in that heyday where everything was new and there was this excitement of these times where people you'd never seen were all suddenly in one place. And that was to be in that was luck and a privilege to do it, because it will never happen again. That won't happen again now. There's too many people coming. The big difference is we all went online to share shit for free. We didn't get any money. There was no monetization on YouTube at the time. There was, the best most of us got was, a local supplement company would give us a tub of protein a month just to have their name on your videos, and we were consistently putting out good content for nothing other than the pure fact we wanted to share what we were learning. Now people are coming online to make money from you, and that's the problem.
It was an innocence to what you did. It was an innocence and a passion.
Yeah, it was pure. It was passionate and pure. Yeah, and it's like the same issue with people lies with supermarkets is people believe that a supermarket or a food chain cares about you. That's what social media is now. They're the supermarkets of the corner shop that we were. That little corner shop where you went with the nana who was there and you'd know your name when you went in and you'd know what you wanted. That was what we were. And now it's a supermarket, and all they want is you to spend money until you die. But they don't care when you die. And that's what people need to understand. One, that's what a lot of social media is now. They don't care about you, even though they're seemingly trying to. You got to kind of dig deeper and see, are they really, or are they just a charlatan? Because if you can find the true people, there's some absolute golden nuggets on there. And they will literally change the way you perceive life if you can do it. But if you get stuck with these supermarket-esque social media brands, it's what's the word? Diluting is what it is.
Yeah. And
I know it's hard, and there's so much information out there, but if you do truly appreciate a content creator who you follow, show them loyalty, stick with them, share their stuff, comment on the things, get involved with what they're doing, because those guys are working hard amidst other people who are working to make money from you. That's what one of the biggest things I say is support your creators, because YouTube isn't supporting them anymore. Instagram isn't supporting them anymore. They're making them pay to be seen, even though their content is genuine and pure. And all these supermarket brands of social media are coming in and paying for their shit to be shared to you. And that's why you're seeing it. Not because they care, but because they paid for it to be shoved in your face.
Yeah.
And the more you realize that, the cleaner your timeline will become of just stuff that actually benefits you. So rather than my timeline at the moment is UFC stuff, MMA things, some of the more intensive training guys who break down the mechanics of the body and rehab work, and then
to walk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, literally. Yeah, people like that. There's Vinny Rehab, he's called online. He's amazing. The dude will just change people who've been told they've been crippled, can't do something. He literally will fix them. Like they're incredible. And then also I have, animal voiceovers. So that's my timeline. Fighting, body mechanics, a cat talking to a dog as a voiceover.
Perfect.
And that's my day. So my timeline's quite happy, but also limited. It's not just an endless feed of just stuff to drag me down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think being purposeful with what we consume is massively helpful for our well-being as well, which we've kind of touched on throughout this discussion. The last area I want to go with you, Lex, conscious of the time that we spent together, is what maintains your appetite for content creation? You spoke there about the support of people. But what keeps you going? Because your longevity is something that stands out. You said before that some people have fallen off during this period. Even Matt Ogus doesn't really create anymore, who was the man that started an awful lot of what we know.
People who know Matt, that's nothing to do with anything but Matt. He is a bit like that. He gets really OCD about stuff, and if he can't do it perfectly, he doesn't do it at all. Like, you can see that in his weight training. There is nobody more impressive. There's nobody more impressively boring than Matt is with his training. He's edging up weights by micro amounts. He's absolutely obsessive, which is why he is as insane as he is in the way he looks and how perfect he is in the way he lifts. And he still gets hurt, which is something to take into account as well. Even somebody with such perfection can't avoid these variables of stuff going wrong and getting hurt. He's had some serious shoulder and chest issues that have happened to him that he's had to work through. So, but he is like that. It's either all or nothing with Matt, and he always has been. So he kind of, if he's happy where he is in life, he just kind of sits there for a bit and enjoys it. And then he'll decide where he wants to go, and then you'll see him again. Lavado, on the other hand, Lavado, we used to have to bully Chris to put content up. I think one of the boys actually sent him a video camera. Was like, will you please film stuff? Because you're awesome and people need to see more of you. But he just never really gave a shit about that. He doesn't need online adoration, and he's a really good PT, and he has a online PT company where he deals with, X amount of people who are constantly coming back to him, being on, and improving and getting better and learning. So he has a really stable income from all that side. And it's really nice to see he never relied on the socials, because relying on socials for your income is a scary thing right now, because they can change things just overnight, which they have done, which is why you think you've seen people fall off, which again is why I say support your creators. Many people haven't fallen off. YouTube are just not showing you that they're uploading. Like, I have over 1 million subscribers. Less than 1% of my subscribers see that I upload. I think it's even less than 1%. It's despicable. And you can go from getting like a couple of thousand views on something to getting a couple of million views on something if YouTube suddenly makes money from this one video. But then they don't reward you by showing anything else that you've put up. So they're literally, all YouTube cares about is revenue. Their content is secondary to revenue. And that's what needs to change, in my opinion. But I don't know how that would change.
Yeah. A new platform coming out, that will probably change it. Someday a competitive
Nothing is going to be able to challenge it, though. It's too big. Yeah. It's like trying to take down a government. It's just, it's in control of too much. It's too many investors, too much money involved. It's probably worth billions now, YouTube.
Yeah.
So
what keeps you going, though, Lex? What keeps the fire lit for you to keep creating content?
Well, I've realized that I have to just start putting out things that I enjoy and stop worrying about what YouTube might want. And so that's what I'm getting back to. As we were talking before we came online, I'm going to start doing a lot more of this, speaking to camera about tough topics and just being raw about it and breaking it down so that hopefully people can see this tough topic. Actually, it's not that tough once you break it down and look at its foundations and realize that one of the biggest things that people get the wrong way around is finding out they've been doing something wrong. To a lot of, would you see that as a negative or a positive if you find out you've been doing something wrong?
Probably a positive, because it would mean I could take action on a solution.
Now that's the mindset, and that's why you do what you do.
It's growth mindset.
Most people would see it, fuck, I'm doing that wrong. God damn it. All this time wasted. No. The moment you see there's an error, now you can fix that, and you're going to see some results from fixing it. And that's exactly how you saw it then. But that's not a normal mentality, but that's what we need to teach people that it should be. Finding errors being positively critical is a fantastic ability to develop, because it takes this seemingly negative thing and turns it into a positive. So that negative energy that would have maybe dragged some of the stuff down, like we said before, crept into other things. Well, I've done that wrong there, and I did that wrong there today at work, and I did it, I was trying to fix this and I couldn't bloody do it. And slowly those negatives build up. If you start switching it and saying, well, that was an error, but we know where that error was, so let's fix that and see what we get next time. That'll be interesting, And it's this, and it is really this small manipulation of positive energy or mindsets that makes such a massive difference. And it sounds hippie-ish and it sounds silly until you do it. And and I think the more we can get people trying things and understanding that it might feel a little silly at first to sit with your eyes closed, listening to this essentially what's dictated as hippie music, but there's those binaural tones that are going on in that music that you weren't aware of are having a massive effect on your body, putting your feet on the earth. Another silly thing that's we got tree huggers was a negative connotation, but there is an actual real benefit to going out into nature, like you said. And the reason you put your hands on the tree is because we walk around in rubber soles, but by putting our hands on the tree is connecting you to the earth. And we have a charge running through our body, and you can literally measure a dissipation of charge from your body. You can see the charge drop if you touch a tree or if you go and put your feet on the earth. It helps reset you. We're supposed to be part of the planet. And everyone keeps we have this idea that we were born into this world. We weren't born into it. We were born from it.
Powerful, mate.
Yeah. But when you start thinking of things like that and strip away all the silliness and just look at, we are being born, from this world. We should be in contact with it, but instead we put ourselves in these concrete boxes and separate ourselves out and cluster ourselves into single areas and decimate everything that was there so that we can plant some concrete down and live on it. Get out in nature and start breathing that fresh air, getting out in the morning, getting the sun on your skin. It's going to help your mental health massively and boost your energy levels.
From what you're saying, Lex, I think you have a message that you want to continue to share, and that's what keeps you going in some sense. And we also spoke earlier about you speaking to your followers and subscribers about things that you need to remember as well and reminding yourself. And that seems like quite a noble combination where, listen, I'm learning too. I'm going to keep sharing what's working for me and what's helping me. But best believe I need to share this because I think that more people can live a better life by listening to what I've got to say. And that's what's kept you going for a very long time now. And if this is the kind of content you're going to produce, that chat that we've just had there, then long may it continue, because I think people will benefit tremendously from that.
I'm just going to drill it out and hope that, volume will start to allow it to be picked up by the algorithm, because these type of things that we can do here, they're so much easier than filming a 20-minute video edit, aren't they? But so much more powerful, really. And I think because of Joe Rogan and people like that, more people are realizing how important it is to sit and listen to talks and listen to people just discussing topics, because it's passive learning. It's easy, and like you said, that getting people to just understand that saying that silly thing you think in your head about something, say it out loud, and all of a sudden you realize 80% of other people think the same stupid thing. And now all of a sudden you're alleviated from thinking that you're weird and odd for having that thought. And it frees you from the worry of, I used to think this all the time. Yeah, so did I. Really? It's like the time I found out my buddy Sal, I'm calling you out, Sal, waxed his eyebrows. And I thought he was just a beautiful Egyptian bloke and naturally had these wonderful eyebrows, until one day he admitted he was getting them shaped. And I was like, you son of a bitch. And then I went and got my eyebrows shaped because he broke the boundary, made it not, daft analogy, but you can see what I mean. And the moment he did, it's okay for me to do that, then go, cool, chum,
Yeah.
And it's as silly as that, but it can have such an effect. Like, we connected because we did the Slater shoot together. We would have never maybe met had we not gone and just taken a chance to go and do this idea that Slater's had.
Yeah,
which was
and be so open and vulnerable in that space as well, to know each other quite well.
Yeah, and because we've been on social media, it's easier for us to just be a little bit more vulnerable because we're used to putting things out there and people seeing it, unlike others who aren't kind of on that platform. They might otherwise not hear that because other people won't just share it in everyday life. So we have a responsibility there to almost share these silly things so other people understand it's just normal to have these silly ideas or daft thoughts or negative thoughts about things or doubts.
Yeah, last question, Lex, and this is firing off hard in my head. During this period when, and I'm going to call it lower, Lex, you maybe weren't feeling at your best, but people were still quite reliant on you to be a source of inspiration and motivation.
Yeah.
And you took that on. Did that feel like a heavy cross to bear during this period?
Yeah, so, just to give clarity on things, obviously I went through a cluster of other things. So I lost my grandfather, who was really close to me. He was 99 years old, legend, but he is still a huge loss to my life. That was the man who held my hand as a child, taught me to ride a bike. He was the guy who taught me to be the man I am. So I lost him, which then followed in. I had a breakdown in my marriage, and I'd moved to a place where I wasn't surrounded by friends. This was a place that I picked due to business location. It was easy to get to Birmingham or London. So relatively segregated, and then COVID hitting, boom, that locked all that down. Then mum got the cancer scare and had to have the full hysterectomy, and then had to care for her, having her here. There was a whole load of things going on, and it could have very easily all imploded. But actually getting messages from other people who were struggling in similar situations, because I was being open about them, helped talk to each other, because I was able to say, I was able to look and understand, see, they were feeling this way even more so than I was. So hell, I'm doing pretty well. Actually, I'm holding up pretty well. And that made me, a bit of confidence. And I used to say, I'm doing this to help me get through that moment. Like, one, if, some of you had lost people recently and it's upsetting and you're struggling to deal with it, one of the best things I found was whenever you have a happy memory of that person, is to just write it down in a journal and have a little journal of happy stories that you have of those people. And every time you start to feel a little down or a little bit taken back because that person's no longer there, because you have those moments of sudden realization that they're gone again, and almost it hits you all over, go to the journal, pick it up and start reading through those happy memories again and realize, damn, aren't you lucky? Aren't you lucky and privileged to have had somebody in your life that has all these happy stories that you're able to miss so much because they're worth missing? And when you start these little things and just repeat them whenever you start to struggle, one, it teaches you to catch yourself when you're struggling, but two, teaches you to switch your mindset of that struggle and focus on the positive again. That was a little one that really helped me with my granddad. And I start also another thing for just people who have lost anyone, start looking around your home. I guarantee you'll start to see them in things you never realized before. I didn't realize until someone pointed it out, but my living room is inspired by my granddad and I never even realized it. So it's got pieces of his furniture in it, which I always knew, but then I didn't understand that other aspects of what I'd done through my childhood with him were spilling over into my other decorations around the room. So these people are always with you in some aspect. They're always around you. You know, their impression on your world is still there. And even when you spot these things and notice them, now when you see them, they make you smile because it's this little nod towards that time they were with you, you know? So little things like that, and that throughout, you can find those similar little things to do for every scenario. That was just a specific one for if you've lost somebody, but just finding those flip points. Like, okay, so you've broken up with somebody. Bad, okay, but wasn't a waste of your time because on that relationship, you've learned a number of things. One, that you liked, and two, other things you didn't like and didn't work. Also be aware that your brain has a really handy mechanism of erasing negative memories much faster than positive memories. Hence the saying rose-tinted glasses.
It's why people get back together, isn't it? Quite a lot of the time when they shouldn't.
Yeah. Scientifically proven, the brain rids ourselves of negative memories quicker than positives, which it's a self-healing mechanism, isn't it? So that's why, yeah, you look back with just all these wonderful thoughts about the relationship that's now lost. But there was a real reason why you came to a point of it ending. There were real reasons why it ended. And you've got to remember that. But also now, wow, you're free with no compromise to anybody to go and do anything you want to do. You are beholden to no one anymore. You're free. Go take advantage of that. Go experience new things, try new things. And guess what? Once again, you'll meet new people, like-minded people who will probably, you might find a new something there when you're ready. Yeah, but if you don't, if you just sit and wallow in this misery of everything you've lost, well, what are you going to gain from sitting and doing nothing?
Beautiful, Lex. I absolutely love that. And I've absolutely loved this conversation. I'm sure the listeners have as well. We've gone an hour
already.
Oh, more than that, Lex. We've gone for ages, but I've absolutely loved it. Where would you like people to go to continue the conversation with you, Lex? Where should they head?
So you got my YouTube channel. Obviously, on everything, I'm pretty much Lex Fitness. Other than Twitter, which for some reason I think I'm Sir Lexington or Lexatron. I'm not entirely sure why. Oh no, I'm Lexonidas. Because I was obsessed with, I don't know why at the time, I must have got obsessed with 300. But and I never cared about Twitter, so I had a daft name on there. But yeah, if you just search Lex Fitness on YouTube, there's going to be a lot of things coming on, a lot like we're doing now, but me talking to the camera about the subjects. But also we've got the podcast, which is its own thing together, which is the Crewcast. And we run that. There's a fresh episode every single Monday. Hopefully we'll get you on. Yeah, that's why I was asking if you were going to be in England anytime soon. You can get you down, come stay at the house, and we'll do some training together. And
we'll train, do a podcast. I'd absolutely love that. And so wherever you're listening to this, guys, you can find the Crewcast as well. It's on all platforms.
Yeah, it's on everything. But we actually have a privilege as well, is we have Spotify video. So we are one of the elite, and I don't know how we did it, but we got it. So there's like us and Joe Rogan and a few other people. So you can watch us on Spotify like you would watch us on YouTube. But can we put links on these things or not?
Yeah, I'll link in the show notes below. Yeah, I'll link the Crewcast on Spotify.
You can find us. We're on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, all over the show. Stitcher. Is Stitcher? I don't know if Stitcher's a thing, but everyone seems to link it, so we're on there. Yeah. Google Music, Apple Podcast, the whole shebang. Just search the Crewcast and look for that logo, and you'll find us. And it's myself and Lou, and we do similar to you. We just talk about life's things that have gone on or hot topics at the time, We usually do it with a glass of whiskey and the odd cigar as well. And we do a few whiskey. We'll talk you through the whiskey we're drinking as well each time. And we've actually got people who've gone they've like bought a whiskey a week every time we've gone. Well, it's whiskey or rums usually. So people keep sending us pictures of their drinks cabinets that's just full of the last week's worth of stuff. It's really cool. But you'll see when you come on, it's just blokes talking. And again, same thing, very open, dealing with problems, people sending the questions as well. So we always put out a question on my Instagram, which is Lex_fitness. We'll always put out kind of on the day questions for the crewcast, and we spend the final 30 minutes answering people's questions and covering those things. And they can be as stupid as you want or as real as you want, and we'll answer them all equally.
I love it, Lex. I love the conversation. I'm sure you guys have as well. If you have done, please take a screenshot, pop it on your Instagram, tag me at call.cambro, tag Lex, and I'll be back to speak to you all again very, very soon.
Boom, baby.